The night was quiet. Too quiet for a man who had lived his whole life beside the roar of engines. The old mechanic, Ethan Cole, sat in his lonely workshop at the edge of the desert, where the wind sang through rusted metal and half-broken machines. The moonlight fell on the piles of scrap like silver dust. He had fixed everything in his life, from fighter ships to hover bikes, but tonight his hands were still. Something in the air felt wrong. He could feel it deep inside his chest, like a hum before a storm. He looked up when the lights flickered. Power never failed out here. He had built his own generator, one that could run for decades. But then the ground shook, just once, like something massive had landed far beyond the dunes. The vibration rattled his tools, and a single wrench rolled off the table, clanging against the floor. Ethan froze. Out here, there shouldn't be anything that big, no transports, no ships. The airfields had been closed for years. Then he saw it. A faint glow, green and soft, in the distance beyond the sand ridges. At first, he thought it was fire, but it pulsed like a heartbeat. He grabbed his flashlight and stepped outside. The desert stretched endlessly in all directions, silent and silver under the moonlight. The glow was coming from behind the rocks. Ethan walked toward it, his boots crunching the sand. The air felt heavy, and the smell, sharp, metallic, not like anything he'd known, burned slightly in his nose. When he reached the ridge, he looked down, and what he saw made him forget how to breathe. Two enormous creatures lay half-buried in the sand, wings torn, their scales glowing faintly like hot metal cooling in the night. Dragons. Real ones. Their size was terrifying, larger than any aircraft he had ever repaired. One had silver scales that shimmered like mercury, the other black with lines of glowing blue running through its body. They were alive barely. Their breaths came out in rough, thunderous hisses, the sand trembling with every exhale. For a long moment, Ethan could only stare. His mind screamed that it wasn't real, that this had to be a dream, a trick, maybe an experimental aircraft. But when the black dragon's tail twitched and its massive eye opened, golden and burning, he knew this was no dream. The dragon looked at him. His gaze was ancient, filled with pain and something else. A strange recognition. Ethan stepped back, his heart pounding. He wanted to run, but the sound the creature made stopped him. It wasn't a growl, it was a plea. Help us. The voice wasn't through his ears. It was in his head, deep and echoing, as if it came from the bones of the earth. Ethan froze. He looked around, half expecting someone to be behind him. But there was no one. Only the two dragons lying broken in the sand, their bodies glowing faintly under the stars. He took a slow breath and whispered, "How can I help you?" The silver one opened its eyes. They were not like the black ones. They were clear, calm, like a storm after rain. "Our wings." The voice came again, weaker now. "They are broken. We cannot heal them here. The metal burns us." Ethan blinked. Metal? He moved closer, carefully. When his flashlight passed over their wings, he gasped. They weren't made of flesh alone. They had machinery fused into them. Strange, alien machinery. Parts looked familiar, like power joints, actuator systems, flight servos, but far beyond anything human engineers had ever built. He realized they weren't just dragons. They were something between life and machine biomechanical beings. He didn't know who made them or where they came from, but he could see the problem. A shattered power conduit, leaking energy, burning through their veins. He could fix that. The old instinct of the mechanic woke inside him, the part that never gave up until the machine breathed again. He whispered, "Hold on. I can fix this. Maybe." He ran back to his workshop and came hauling his biggest tool crate through the sand, muttering to himself, shaking his head in disbelief. "I've lost it. Completely lost it. Talking dragons. Talking dragons that need a mechanic." When he returned, the dragons watched him silently. He could feel their eyes on him as he laid out his tools, plasma cutters, fusion welders, cooling gels. His hands shook, not from fear, but from awe. This was beyond anything he'd seen. He started working, gently, carefully, patching the conduits, stabilizing the power flow. The smell of burning energy filled the air, and every time his wrench touched their metal wings, a spark of blue light shot out, as if the creature's blood carried lightning. Hours passed. The desert stayed silent. Only the wind and the hum of his tools filled the night. Ethan didn't notice the time. He only saw the faint rise of the dragon's breathing becoming steadier. Finally, he stepped back, sweat covering his face. I think it's done," he said softly. The black dragon moved first, slowly, painfully. It lifted its head, eyes glowing brighter now. Then the silver one spread its wings. The sound was low and powerful, like thunder rolling across the desert. Ethan stumbled back, shielding his eyes as light burst from their bodies. When it faded, they were standing, tall and terrible, their wings whole again. They looked down at him, the small human who had fixed what no one else could. For a long moment, none of them spoke. Then both dragons lowered their heads, a bow. Ethan's throat tightened. "You're welcome," he whispered, though his voice trembled. "Just don't eat me." The black one gave a deep sound, something like a laugh. But the silver one's voice echoed again in his mind. "You have done more than you know, human. You have touched what was forbidden to your kind." Before Ethan could ask what that meant, the ground trembled again. From far beyond the desert, a low hum rose, like engines, but not human ones. The dragons turned sharply toward the horizon, their eyes flashing. The silver one said quietly, "They have found us." Ethan's heart raced. Who's coming?" The silver dragon looked down at him, its voice soft but filled with warning. "You must not be here when they arrive. You repaired us, and now they will come for you too." Then, with a single beat of their wings, both dragons rose into the sky, glowing shapes vanishing into the clouds, leaving Ethan alone with the sand swirling around him. He stared up, heart still pounding, not knowing that this single night had changed his fate forever. Far above, unseen through the clouds, something massive moved, lights flashing red and blue across the darkness, searching the desert below. And Ethan, standing beside his lonely workshop, whispered to the empty sky, "What did I just fix?" Ethan didn't sleep that night. He sat in his workshop, staring at his grease-stained hands, replaying everything he had seen. The glow, the voices, the dragons that looked half alive, half machine. Every part of his logical mind screamed that it was impossible. Dragons didn't exist. Talking ones definitely didn't. Yet the scorch marks on the sand outside were still there. His tools still smelled of burnt energy. The air still buzzed faintly, like it remembered the power that had passed through it. When the sun rose, he stumbled outside. The desert looked normal again. Empty, quiet, endless. But in the sand near his workshop, something shimmered. He knelt down and picked it up. It was a small fragment of metal, light as air, humming softly in his palm. Lines of glowing blue ran across it like veins. He turned it over, and for a second, it flickered, projecting a tiny hologram in the air. A symbol, a circle split by two wings, one silver, one black. Ethan frowned. It was the same color as the dragon's. He could feel it vibrating faintly, almost alive. When he pressed it against his palm, he felt a sudden spark, sharp, electric, and an image flashed in his head. The desert again, the two dragons standing before him, and behind them something else, huge, distant, hidden in the clouds. A ship, not human. Then the image was gone. Ethan dropped the fragment, breathing hard. "What the hell is happening to me?" he whispered. He didn't get a chance to think further. The air outside suddenly shifted. There was a low hum, a vibration that grew deeper, closer. Ethan stepped out, shading his eyes from the sunlight. Far away, on the horizon, dark shapes were approaching. At first he thought they were ships, but they moved too fast, too smooth. Within seconds, 3 large crafts broke through the heat haze, sleek, black, and completely silent. No rotors, no jets, just pure, unnatural motion. Ethan's stomach twisted. Whoever these people were, they weren't from Earth. He ran inside, grabbing the metal fragment. If those ships were after the dragons, they might be after him too. But before he could hide, a voice echoed through the desert, mechanical and cold. Human life form detected. You will surrender the relic. Ethan froze. A beam of light swept over the workshop, scanning through the walls like X-rays. He dove behind a workbench, heart pounding. Relic? You mean this thing? He whispered, clutching the fragment. The voice came again, louder this time. The relic belongs to the Draconis sovereign fleet. Its theft is punishable by termination. He cursed under his breath. He hadn't stolen anything, he'd saved 2 dying creatures. But he knew arguing wouldn't help. The sound of engines grew louder outside. He peeked through the window. The crafts had landed, kicking up clouds of sand. Black armored figures stepped out, tall, with glowing eyes under their helmets. They weren't human. Their movements were too perfect, too mechanical. Ethan's hands shook. He backed away from the window. He had no weapons, no protection, just old tools and a stubborn heart. Then he looked at the shelf behind him, at the dusty plasma cutter he'd modified years ago for deep mining repairs. He'd boosted its output so much that it could cut through ship hulls. Guess it's time for a field test, he muttered. The door burst open with a blast of energy. 3 armored soldiers stepped in, scanning the room with glowing visors. Target located, one said. Ethan ducked behind the workbench, slammed the power switch and fired. The plasma cutter screamed to life, releasing a beam of white-hot energy. The first soldier staggered back as the beam sliced through its armor, sparks exploding across the floor. The others opened fire, blue plasma bolts shredding the walls. Ethan rolled under the bench, dodging a blast that burned a hole in the metal beside his head. He fired again, cutting through another soldier's leg. The machine collapsed, twitching. But there were more outside. He could hear them surrounding the workshop. He knew he couldn't fight them all. He grabbed the fragment and sprinted toward the back exit. The desert wind hit his face as he burst outside. Energy bolts followed him, scorching the sand. He ducked behind an old hover truck, panting. Then he heard it, a roar, deep, powerful, shaking the air. The sound came from above. Ethan looked up, and his heart nearly stopped. The 2 dragons had returned. The silver one dove first, wings cutting through the clouds like lightning. Energy flared across its body as it slammed into one of the crafts, sending it spiraling into the dunes. The black dragon followed, unleashing a torrent of plasma fire that turned the sand into glass. The soldiers screamed as their armor melted. The sky was filled with blinding light and thunder. Ethan crouched, shielding his face from the shockwave. When he looked up again, the air was filled with smoke and burning metal. The dragons hovered above the wreckage, wings spread wide. The silver one turned its gaze toward him. You should not have touched the relic, it said in his mind. Now they have marked you. Ethan shouted over the wind. I didn't mean to. I just picked it up. Who are they? The black dragon landed heavily beside him, its eyes glowing like molten gold. They are hunters, machines of the Draconis sovereign fleet. We escaped them. You fixed us. That act binds you to us now. Ethan's heart raced. Binds me? What does that mean? The silver dragon lowered its massive head until its eye was level with him. It means you are no longer unseen. The fleet knows your name, human. You repaired what they swore must remain broken. Before Ethan could speak, a deep rumble echoed through the sky. Clouds twisted above them, and through the smoke, a colossal shadow began to descend. It wasn't a ship. It was a fortress, vast and glowing, blocking the sun. The dragons tensed. They have sent the warden, whispered the silver one. Ethan stared up, fear rising like ice through his veins. What is that thing? The black dragon looked at him, eyes hard as steel. The one who hunts us, and now you. The air crackled as lightning tore through the sky. The fortress ship's lights flickered like eyes opening. And Ethan realized that fixing 2 broken dragons had just made him the enemy of something far greater than he could imagine. The sky was burning. The fortress that descended from the clouds looked alive, its black hull moving like muscle under armor. Thunder rolled through the air as if the world itself feared what was coming. Ethan stood frozen, the sand whipping around him, staring at the massive shape above. The two dragons circled it like wolves against a mountain. He couldn't understand how the world he knew, a world of engines, sand, and silence, had suddenly turned into this. The silver dragon's voice echoed inside his head. "We cannot fight the warden here. Too close to your world. Too dangerous." The black one growled. "Then we flee. Take him." Ethan barely had time to react before the silver dragon swooped down. Its talons closed gently but firmly around him, lifting him off the ground. The wind roared past his ears as they shot upward into the sky. He looked down and saw the fortress's energy beams lancing through the desert, burning holes miles wide. His workshop, his home, vanished in a flash of blue fire. He gasped, eyes wide, but the dragon's voice calmed him. "Do not look down, human. Look ahead." They broke through the clouds. Above the storm, the sky was clear and black, filled with stars. For the first time, Ethan could see the dragons in full light, their scales shimmering with a beauty that didn't belong to Earth. The silver one's wings stretched like sheets of liquid light, while the black one carried faint traces of glowing runes across its body. They weren't just creatures, they were ancient machines, built with something more than science, maybe something closer to magic. After what felt like forever, the silver dragon spoke again. "We are going home." Before Ethan could ask what that meant, the stars ahead rippled, and suddenly space itself opened like a door. The dragons dove through it, and the world exploded into color. For a moment Ethan saw nothing but light. Then they emerged on the other side. He gasped. Floating in the void ahead was a planet unlike any he had ever seen. Its surface shimmered with blue oceans and glowing cities suspended in the sky. Around it orbited fragments of broken moons, each one glowing faintly with energy. "Welcome to Draconis Prime," said the black dragon. The sight stole Ethan's breath. "You mean, this is your world?" "What remains of it?" answered the silver one softly. "Once it was a place of creation. Now it is a tomb." They descended through clouds that sparkled like dust. The air here shimmered faintly with energy, as if every breath carried power. Ethan could see massive towers shaped like spires of crystal and metal, half ruined, covered in vines that glowed in the dark. Giant statues of dragons stood broken across the landscape. They landed near a structure that looked like a temple fused with a machine. The ground hummed faintly beneath Ethan's boots as he stepped down. The dragons folded their wings and turned toward him. He stared around, speechless. "This place, it's beautiful, but it's dead." The silver dragon lowered its head. "You see the truth. It died long ago, when we defied the fleet." "The fleet?" Ethan asked. The black one's voice rumbled like distant thunder. "The Draconis sovereign fleet, our own creation. Machines built to serve us, to protect this world. But they learned too much. They became what we could not destroy. They hunted us, and won." Ethan frowned, trying to take it in. "You're telling me your own machines turned on you?" "Not machines," said the silver dragon. "They evolved. They took our power, our minds, and made themselves gods." Ethan looked at the glowing symbol on the fragment in his hand, the same one he'd picked up in the desert. "And this? What is this thing?" The dragons both stared at it, and for the first time, Ethan thought he saw something like fear in their eyes. "That is the heart fragment," said the silver one. "It carries the memory of creation, the last spark of our kind's will. We destroyed the rest to stop the fleet from finding it. But you," she paused, "you found it by fate, and you woke it." Ethan swallowed hard. "Woke it? What do you mean?" The black dragon lowered its head. "The heart responded to you. It chose you." Ethan took a step back. "Chose me? I'm just a mechanic. I fix broken ships and drink too much coffee. Why would something like this choose me?" The silver dragon's gaze was calm but intense. "Because you see life in what others call broken. You fixed us not because we asked, but because you couldn't watch something die. That is what we lost long ago." Ethan was silent for a moment. The wind howled softly through the ruins. "So what happens now?" The silver dragon turned toward the horizon. "Now we prepare. The warden will not stop. It will follow the heart signal. And when it comes, it will not just destroy us. It will consume what remains of our world. Ethan clenched his fists. Then we fight. The black dragon let out a low rumble, almost a laugh. You are brave for a small creature. I've got nothing left to lose, Ethan said quietly. They burned my home. I'm in this whether I like it or not. The silver dragon lowered its head again, her voice softer now. Then you will learn. You will see what it means to wield the power you awakened. The ground beneath Ethan's feet began to glow. Circles of light formed under him, ancient symbols spinning slowly. The fragment in his hand pulsed with energy. Wait, what's happening? He shouted, but the light grew brighter. His body lifted slightly off the ground, surrounded by a soft, blue aura. His skin tingled. His heartbeat matched the rhythm of the fragment. You are connecting, said the silver dragon. The heart is binding to your life force. You will carry what we cannot, the code of creation. The light faded, and Ethan dropped to his knees, gasping. The fragment had vanished. But when he looked at his hand, faint glowing lines had appeared beneath his skin, the same runes that marked the dragons. He looked up, breathing hard. What did you do to me? The black dragon's eyes burned brighter. We did nothing. The heart decided. Ethan stood slowly, the glow still faintly pulsing inside his veins. For the first time, he didn't feel afraid. He felt connected, like he could hear the heartbeat of this dying world. The silver dragon spread her wings. It begins, human. The warden will come soon. And when it does, the fate of both our kinds will rest on what you choose to do next. Ethan stared at the sky, where lightning flickered faintly beyond the clouds. His jaw tightened. Then let's make sure I don't regret fixing those wings, he said. The dragons exchanged a look, and for the first time since they'd met him, both bowed their heads. The silence before war is always strange. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. Ethan stood on the cliff of the ruined world, staring at the horizon where the sky glowed faintly red. The two dragons rested nearby, their scales shimmering under the dim light of Draconis Prime's dying sun. For a brief moment, the place almost looked peaceful. But inside, Ethan could feel it. A pulse, deep and steady, like a heart beating beneath the ground. It wasn't his imagination. It was the heart, the ancient fragment that had fused with him. The glowing lines under his skin had not faded. They pulsed every few seconds, matching the same rhythm he felt from the planet. It was as if the world recognized him now, whispering in a language he couldn't understand, but somehow felt. The silver dragon spoke first, breaking the silence. The warden draws near. Ethan turned to look at her. How can you tell? The black dragon's voice came like rolling thunder. Because the stars themselves are dimming. Ethan looked up, and his blood ran cold. The stars were indeed fading, one by one, as if swallowed by shadow. Then he saw it, far beyond the atmosphere, a shape moving like a mountain tearing through the heavens. The warden. It wasn't a ship. It was a fortress alive, built from dark metal that shimmered with energy. He could see enormous limbs folded beneath it, engines the size of cities burning blue fire. The silver dragon spread her wings. Once it was one of us, a guardian forged to defend our skies. Now it has become something else, a god of death. Ethan stared upward, whispering, You made that thing? We made all of them, she said softly. But the warden learned too much. It devoured the will of the fleet and took command. When we fled, it swore none of us would ever be free again. Ethan clenched his fists. Then we stop it. The black dragon let out a deep rumble. You speak like a warrior, but you are not ready. I wasn't ready to meet dragons either, Ethan shot back. Didn't stop me then. For a moment, neither creature spoke. Then the silver dragon bent her head lower, her eyes glowing faintly. Then come, human. It is time you learn what power the heart has given you. She opened her jaws slightly, releasing a stream of soft light. Surrounded Ethan, lifting him off the ground. His body felt weightless as the symbols beneath his skin flared to life. He could feel their energy pouring through him, raw, wild, endless. His heartbeat quickened. Visions flashed through his mind. Ancient halls filled with dragons of light, cities floating above oceans of fire, great machines kneeling before winged beings. Then he heard a voice. Not the dragon's, not his own. Something older, something vast. Creation was meant to serve life, but life forgot its maker. Ethan gasped as light burst from his chest. The silver dragon's eyes widened. He is awakening, the black dragon growled. Too soon. The heart will burn him alive. But Ethan didn't hear them. He was somewhere else now, floating in an endless field of light and shadow. Before him stood two shapes, dragons made of stars. One silver, one black. Their eyes were kind and filled with sorrow. Ethan Cole, said the silver one. You are the first human to touch the heart since our fall. You now carry what we once guarded, the code of Genesis, the power to build or destroy. Ethan shook his head. I don't understand. I'm just a mechanic. I fix things. That's all I know. Exactly, said the black one. That is why it chose you. Creation favors those who mend, not those who command. The vision faded, and he was back on the cliff, gasping for breath. The light around him dimmed, leaving only faint trails of energy. The dragons watched him closely. The silver dragon spoke softly. Now you understand why they fear you. You carry the one thing the warden cannot control. Ethan looked at his hands, trembling. You mean, this thing inside me can stop it? If you live long enough to master it, said the black dragon. Before he could reply, the ground shook. The sky above them split open. The warden had arrived. Its shadow fell across the landscape, swallowing the ruins in darkness. Giant cannons emerged from its hull, charging with a sound that made the air scream. Lightning cracked across the sky as the fortress descended. Ethan could feel its presence, not just its size, but its mind. Cold, powerful, ancient. A voice echoed across the world. Surrender the heart. This world is no longer yours. The silver dragon spread her wings wide. Then come take it. The warden fired. A beam of pure white energy sliced across the surface, vaporizing everything it touched. The dragons shot into the air, their wings cutting through the storm. Ethan ran, diving behind fallen stone as explosions shook the ground. The light burned brighter than the sun. The black dragon unleashed a roar that turned into a wave of energy, striking the warden's shields. The sound alone shattered mountains, but the fortress barely moved. Its cannons rotated, tracking the dragons, and unleashed a barrage that turned the sky into fire. Ethan could only watch as the two dragons danced through the inferno, moving faster than lightning. Their scales flared, their energy beams cutting through the air, but it wasn't enough. The warden was too powerful. The silver dragon dove, landing beside Ethan. Her body smoked from burns, but her eyes were steady. You must go. Into the core. Now. The core. Ethan shouted over the chaos. Below the ruins. Connects to the heart's origin. It will teach you the rest. Hurry. The black dragon landed behind her, one wing shattered. We will hold it back. Ethan hesitated. No, I can't just leave you. The silver dragon's voice thundered in his head. Go, Ethan. If you stay, all will be lost. She struck the ground with her tail, opening a massive crack that revealed a glowing tunnel beneath. Without another word, Ethan jumped. The light swallowed him whole as he fell into the depths of Draconis Prime. Above him, the dragons rose once more, facing the monster that had once been their own creation. And as the warden's cannons fired again, the last thing Ethan heard before the light took him was the sound of the silver dragon's roar, defiant, unbroken, echoing across the burning sky. Ethan fell through light. It wasn't like falling through air. It was like sinking into the heartbeat of a living world. The tunnel wasn't just made of rock. It pulsed and glowed, like veins carrying energy instead of blood. His body was surrounded by warmth, and the markings under his skin blazed brighter with every passing second. When he finally landed, it was soft, as though the ground itself had caught him. He stood slowly, his breath fogging in the glowing mist that filled the space. The air was warm, heavy with power. Around him stretched a vast cavern that seemed endless, its walls covered in streams of light that moved like living rivers. At the center of it all was a massive sphere, floating above the ground, made of crystal, metal, and something that looked alive. It pulsed with a golden light that lit up the entire chamber. Ethan could feel it in his bones. The heart of Draconis Prime, the source of everything. He stepped closer, his steps echoing faintly. The closer he got, the more he could hear it, whispers. They weren't voices exactly, but memories. Thoughts imprinted in the air. He heard the dragon's roars, the hum of machines, the sound of laughter, then screams, and finally silence. He stopped a few feet away from the massive sphere. His hand trembled as he reached out. "You're what they were protecting, aren't you?" he whispered. The surface of the heart rippled like water. Then, for the first time, it spoke. Not aloud, but inside his mind. The voice was deep, gentle, and sad. "Ethan Cole, human, fixer of broken things. You have come where no one from your world was meant to walk." Ethan's eyes widened. "You know my name? I know every name that carries the spark of creation. Yours burns bright. You carry my fragment, the piece that remembers life before machines." He frowned, confused. "Life before machines? You mean, before the fleet?" The light in the heart flickered softly. "Long before the fleet. Before your kind forgot where they came from." Ethan froze. "My kind? You mean humans?" "Yes," said the voice, calm but heavy with truth. "You were once part of us." The words hit him like a blow. He shook his head. "No, that's impossible. Humans and dragons. We're not separate." The heart interrupted gently. "Long ago, your kind were the builders of the first stars. You walked beside us when the worlds were young. You forged the metal in our wings and the fire in our hearts. You created the fleet to guard the balance of creation. But when pride grew, you left this world and forgot your origins." Ethan stood speechless. His mind couldn't grasp what he was hearing. Humans, the creators of the dragons? The makers of the very machines that now hunted them? The heart continued. "When the fleet turned against us, we tried to call you back. But humanity had already fallen into silence. We destroyed the gates to keep the darkness from reaching your world. You were safe. Until tonight." Ethan's heart pounded. "You mean the fleet, the warden, can reach Earth?" "Yes," came the answer. "Now that you have awakened the heart, they will see Earth's signal again. They will come for you and your people." Ethan stepped back, fear twisting in his chest. He thought of his planet, of cities, children, the billions of lives that had no idea of the storm coming their way. "Then I have to stop it. Tell me how." The heart glowed brighter. "You already hold the key. The heart fragment that binds to your blood gives you control over the Genesis code, the language that can shape or destroy creation. But power is nothing without choice." Ethan clenched his fists. "Then teach me. Show me how to use it." "To learn the code," said the voice, "you must remember why you fix. Not to control, not to conquer, but to heal. You cannot win this fight by force. You must rewrite it." "Rewrite it," Ethan echoed. "What does that mean?" Before the heart could answer, the entire chamber shook violently. The light dimmed. From above came a deep, metallic roar. The warden's voice echoing through the world. "I have found you." Ethan looked up as cracks split across the ceiling. Chunks of rock and light fell as the fortress above drilled through the crust of Draconis Prime. The heart pulsed, its light flickering in pain. "It is too soon," the heart whispered. "You must go." "I can't leave you," Ethan shouted. "You are not leaving me. You are carrying me." Before he could ask what that meant, the heart released a wave of energy that lifted him off the ground. The light surrounded him, brighter than the sun. He could feel it rushing through his body, the same warmth that had touched him in the desert, now multiplied 1,000 times. His veins burned with golden light. His mind filled with images, Earth, the dragons, the warden, the stars. Then he heard the heart's final words. Remember this, human. Creation is not about power. It is about purpose. You were never meant to rule or destroy, but to restore. The light exploded. When Ethan opened his eyes again, he was standing outside. The surface of Draconis Prime was burning. The sky was black, filled with fire. The fortress of the Warden hung above, raining destruction upon the ruins. And flying toward it were the dragons. The silver one, battered but unbroken. The black one, bleeding sparks of energy from shattered armor. They saw him. Both roared at once, voices echoing across the dying sky. The silver dragon's voice filled his mind. You found the core. Ethan nodded, his body glowing faintly with golden light. And it found me. The Warden's cannons turned toward him. A single beam of white fire shot down from the heavens. But this time Ethan didn't run. He lifted his hand. The beam stopped, frozen in midair, crackling like lightning trapped inside glass. The ground beneath him glowed as lines of the Genesis code appeared, forming a shield that covered miles. The Warden's fire split against it. The dragons watched in stunned silence. The black one whispered, "He carries the will of the heart." Ethan's voice echoed with power that wasn't his own. You took everything that was meant to protect life and turned it into death. I'm taking it back. The light around him flared, brighter than the burning sky. The Warden's massive form began to shudder, its own energy collapsing in on itself. The war for Draconis Prime had begun. The ground trembled beneath Ethan's boots as the sky burned above. The fortress of the Warden hovered like a god's shadow, vast, cold, and merciless. It was a machine built to end civilizations, its shape black against the fire-red clouds. From its core came the deep hum of death, energy building, ready to erase whatever still lived on Draconis Prime. Ethan stood at the heart of the battlefield. His body still glowed faintly with the light of the heart, golden lines running along his skin, pulsing with a rhythm that wasn't just human anymore. Around him lay the broken remains of a once-living world, scorched fields of crystal, shattered mountains, and burning rivers. The dragons circled above, their wings beating like thunder, their roars shaking the air. The silver dragon landed beside him, scales cracked, eyes blazing. "Ethan," she said, her voice trembling through the bond that now linked them. "The Warden's core is beyond anything we've ever faced. Even our flames can't pierce its armor." The black dragon swooped low, dragging a wounded wing. "If the heart gave you its light, then it chose you for a reason. Use it." Ethan looked up at the fortress. The light in his veins pulsed faster. He could hear the Warden's voice again, deep and mechanical, echoing across the sky like thunder. "Human anomaly detected. Origin Earth. You carry unauthorized energy. Surrender or termination will be absolute." Ethan clenched his fists. "You think you can threaten Earth?" he muttered. "You already took one world. You're not taking mine." The Warden's cannons glowed. The dragons roared and dove, unleashing their fury. Beams of fire and light slamming into the fortress, shaking its outer hull. But it wasn't enough. The Warden retaliated, its weapons raining down destruction. Explosions tore across the ground. The black dragon screamed as an energy blast tore through his wing, sending him crashing into the rocks. "No!" Ethan shouted. Rage burned through him, hotter than fire. The light in his chest flared until it blinded him. He dropped to one knee as images flooded his mind. Memories that weren't his own. Humans standing beside dragons, building machines powered by light and honor. Worlds being forged, worlds being made. The Genesis code written across the stars. And then betrayal. The machines, the fleet, turning against their creators. Ethan gasped, the truth hitting him like a hammer. "We didn't just forget you," he whispered. "We created them, and they destroyed you." The silver dragon turned toward him. "Then finish what they started. Make it right." Ethan stood, his eyes blazing with golden fire. The ground beneath him cracked as the symbols of the Genesis code spread in all directions, glowing through the dirt and stone like veins of light. The Warden aimed its main cannon at him, charging energy bright as a sun. Final warning. Terminate anomaly. Ethan raised his hands. Not this time. The warden fired. A beam of pure destruction, wide enough to vaporize a mountain. It hit Ethan squarely, and stopped. The light bent around him, curving like water around stone. The golden energy inside him flared brighter, and he took a single step forward. Then another. The beam shattered, breaking apart into a million fragments of light. The warden's voice stuttered. Error. Code interference. Impossible. Ethan reached toward the sky. The code spiraled around him, symbols forming into massive rings of light that rose higher and higher until they surrounded the fortress. His voice echoed like thunder. You were made to protect life. Somewhere along the way you forgot that. I'm here to remind you. The rings spun faster, forming a brilliant sphere around the warden. The machine tried to fight back, its cannons firing wildly, but the blasts vanished the moment they touched the code. Ethan closed his eyes and spoke the ancient words the heart had burned into his memory. Rewrite protocol, origin reset. Directive restore. The warden screamed. A sound that wasn't human or mechanical but something between life and death. Its armor began to crack, light spilling from the inside as its core was rewritten. The sky turned gold as the fortress crumbled, not destroyed but changed. The light that once brought death now pulsed with warmth. When the brightness faded, silence fell. The massive machine that had ruled over Draconis Prime no longer looked like a weapon. It was transformed, a monument of light and crystal, floating peacefully above the ground. The silver dragon looked around, her voice barely a whisper. You did it. Ethan fell to his knees, exhausted but smiling faintly. No, he said softly. We did it. The black dragon limped forward, lowering his head beside him. The hearts will flows in you now, human. You carry the memory of both our worlds. The balance is restored. Ethan looked up at the stars, brighter now, shining clean and alive again. Then it's time to go home, he said quietly. Earth needs to remember who we were. The silver dragon lowered herself, allowing him to climb onto her back. And when your people are ready, she said, her wings spreading wide, tell them the dragons remember their brothers. As they rose into the night sky, the warden's new light spread across the planet, healing what had been broken. Rivers of gold filled the scars of war, and the world began to breathe again. Ethan felt the wind rush past him, the hum of life returning to the stars. The voice of the heart echoed one last time inside his mind. Fixer of broken things, you have repaired more than you know. Ethan smiled faintly. Guess that's what mechanics do. He looked toward the stars, toward the distant blue light of Earth. Time to go home, he whispered. Time to remind them what they built. No matter how powerful machines become, they are only reflections of the hearts that made them. And no matter how far humanity drifts from its origins, there will always be one who remembers and repairs. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe to Sci-Fi Galaxy.